So.
Well, and I thought I would just leave.
Oh, that's
When
fine.
I'm done, then you
Then
can
we just talk about.
Yeah.
Ann doesn't have quite the high opinion of Orville and Lois that I do. But see,
Really?
well, I only knew them as residents. I never knew them beforehand, so.
Okay.
So.
Maybe it doesn't look good if I get out of them and leave.
Oh, it doesn't, I don't think it would matter. I mean, you've got a lot to do.
So where are you wanting me?
I thought we'd leave basically one chair here and move the other chair over there.
Okay.
So it's easier to pass that, kind of that microphone between the two
And
seats.
put the mic out front?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, I think that.
Wait a second.
I think the new decision is a little bit better. Hopefully it'll avert the crisis.
It's bad.
It's too bad.
It wasn't helpful this morning. It was difficult.
Let me go make sure that we're. Given the subject matter, that was pretty good.
Okay. I may stay just to get a bit of rest.
I need to run across the hall and I'll be right back.
Okay.
You know, look at everything in perspective.
Oh, it does. Well, the how I make it even more good perspective is to be out there.
That's right, that's right.
Sitting in a camp circle with my feet up on my recliner with a book, taking a nap because I am not awake, in the sunshine, just enjoying the outdoors.
That sounds good.
2.5 weeks I'm going to go on vacation.
Good. Didn't you put one off?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I did because of the event. Yep.
Did you have much chance to camp in Switzerland?
No. We work 70-hour work weeks,
Wow.
Brian.
Wow.
It was, I think, in some respects, the more harder of the jobs I've ever had, because the expectations were just out of this world, and everybody worked long hours and hard, and yeah, it was a young person's job.
Well, I always kind of had it in mind, the Swiss out there was kind of like the Austrians out hiking in the Alps. Like,
I did do that though.
did you?
Yeah, and the HR director and I were good friends, and his family had a chalet up in the French Alps.
Wow.
I mean, we were, from where I lived, if I just went down the hill to the airport, I was in France. I mean,
Wow.
the airport borders the French-Swiss border, and so it was easy. And the mountains where we were the French Alps. Now, if you go to the south side of the lake, which was about a 20-minute bus ride down through downtown, you could do some of the frontal mountains of the Swiss Alps. And it was wonderful. The Salève, which was, it was beautiful. It was a range, it was a mountain that went up, and then it had a flat top, and you could go up on a trolley or a lift, or it took about 3 hours to climb. And at the top was a Buddhist, I don't know what, a shrine, but a family had a private restaurant up there.
Wow.
And it was always very limited cuisine, very inexpensive. You go up there on a Saturday and have a nice lunch and kind of walk around. There was a high dollar restaurant up there too, but I always went to the Buddhist temple because it was excellent food, and
Sure.
it was less commercial. It was pretty nice.
Well, it looks like it's time to get started.
Yep.
Officially.
Yes.
Yes.
So we've had a chat, but
That's right.
It's now time to talk to the chat. Chat room, if you will.
And we do welcome everybody who might be watching to the Timbercrest chat this afternoon. And just real quick, by way of announcements, your Timberline is still fresh and new, and so I'd encourage you to check your calendar there, and also the articles about several things to sign up to, a couple meals out and a shopping trip and that sort of stuff. So check your Timberline for the most current announcements, and Channel 2 also has been updating. I think there's 1 or 2 updated announcements even from there on Channel 2. So that's really all the announcements I need to make at this point.
Okay.
And of course, Stan is here to share a few things that are of import to our whole Timbercrest family. So
Yeah.
I'll just turn things over to you.
And this month, it really is just a couple of kind of an announcements that I need to make to the community. So I hope this is loud and clear. This past week, we invited a surveyor from the Indiana State Department of Health to come in. They did not come in to do an inspection. They came in at our invitation to help us prepare for annual inspection, which can be from any time today, really through the end of September, October. And we never know, of course, when that's going to happen.
Right.
And it was a valuable afternoon. I know back in healthcare there were some outstanding comments and tips, and our goal is not to be in competition or challenging of the state, but rather to learn from each time we receive a survey. And so we thought, well, let's be on the proactive side and bring someone in. And there is at least one item which I think is important for residents, especially if you're going to be here in the Manor, and the residents who live in the Manor, healthcare and Crestwood. One of the things the surveyor said is there is one quick way for Timbercrest to get a citation, and it is the improper wearing of a face mask. And the surveyor said, if our surveyor sees you with your mask worn incorrectly, you're going to get a tag. And they don't care if you're an employee or a resident. And so we just have to share with people. I know we're all getting sick and tired of these things, but until they say take them off, this is what we have to wear. So when you're required to wear them, it must cover your nose and it must go down underneath the chin. Now, Brian, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to demonstrate what's not right, and
Sure.
you need to look the other way or something.
Okay.
This will get us a citation.
Yep.
And a citation is something that we really don't want anymore. And if it's up this way, it's a citation. If somebody has a mask like this, it's a citation. So if you're in the dining room and you're in the process of ordering and eating your meal, that's not a problem. It's when you're in the hallways or walking around at the front desk, anywhere where you're on stage, out in front of people, except the dining room. So just a plea to all the residents, please wear your mask properly. I'm sorry, we will be asking, if we see people with them on wrongly, staff will be asking you to put it up over your nose, down under your chin, for proper protection, and also to prepare us for the state survey. Sure. The second one that I want to, is kind of an annual reminder to everyone that our goal at Timbercrest is always to provide a safe, healthy environment for all residents. However, from time to time, there may have something, you may have something happen that you don't think is right, or you want to share a complaint about, or if anything ever happens that you're uncomfortable with, you have a right to inform people that something hasn't gone well. You are protected by the Elder Justice Act, and that means that you have a right to say, I don't think this was good. I don't feel like I was paid, I didn't get the care I thought I was going to get. I feel I was mistreated. And there are places for you to call, people for you to be in touch with immediately if those are ever concerns. And next week, we are going to send out a sheet to every resident of Timbercrest, neighborhood homes included on this one. It's a reminder to all residents, and it includes names, telephone numbers, and for those of us on staff that you can contact, you'll have our cell phone numbers too. And then state agencies like the Indiana Department of Health, Long-Term Care, the Indiana Nursing Home Ombudsman, the local Area 5 Ombudsman, Family and Social Service. I mean, there's a whole listing of, and these are important numbers for you to keep someplace in your room or in your apartment so that you have them. And the issue we would say is if it ever you're in doubt, don't be afraid to call one of us on staff immediately and say, here's what I'm feeling, what should I do? If it's something you have to report to the state, we're going to let you know and how to do that. If it's something we need to know about, we'll respond to it and get back with you promptly after it's resolved. So those are the two items that I had for today, Brian.
Very good, very good.
And I don't know, I'm debating whether I want to stay with you or go outside and walk, because it sure is a beautiful afternoon.
It's a beautiful day. I'll leave it up to you, but
I'm going to stay.
If it were up to me,
you'd go outside, wouldn't you?
I think I would.
So I'm anxious to hear what you have to share with us.
Well, I've been going through some old files and just deleting old emails and things that are on my computer that I think the IT people think that I must have the fullest storage here.
No, Brian, we know you have the largest file here. No, I'm teasing.
But I ran across this, and I don't know who wrote it. I know it wasn't me. But it's the story of Orville and Lois Sherman, and you know the story, and I do, that they are the people basically who saw the transition from the old Mexico home to Timbercrest. And I think part of the reason that their story fascinates me is that way back in 1973, my Eagle Scout project had to do with the transition that lots of places were going through from big old mansions and county homes that had served older adults to more modern facilities like this. And these are people that are actually doing it. Yeah. So that's what I like about this story. So as I said, I don't know who wrote it. I want to think that it might have been Don Ritchie, but Dana Kroll is mentioned in here, so it might have been Dana. I really don't know. But so here we go. It says, starts this way. Theirs is a story that begins like any one of thousands of young Indiana couples. She was a faithful daughter, a farm daughter. As a 4-year-old girl, her own mother died, and her father married another woman who gave her a ready family of 3 sisters and a brother. Like most farm women and girls of the time, she knew that her main work was. He was a distracted farm boy. Like most Hoosiers in the 20s, he worked at the usual chores, tending animals, and even broke a horse as a 4-H project. But in the back of his mind, there was always something more than the farm. They knew each other, this she and he, at New Paris High School in rural Elkhart County. Though he was 2 years ahead of her, there was a spark between them. They knew each other at the old Maple Grove Church of the Brethren. She was always musical, and her talents were enjoyed by the brotherhood as she moved from a childhood to adulthood. He went to church because it was right to do so, and he enjoyed the company of his friends as much as he enjoyed the sermons. They knew each other well as he started working for her father, helping him and her brothers with the difficult work of growing a growing farm. His mechanical mind was honed by the make-do opportunities presented in the Great Depression when technologies were new and unaffordable. Her gifts for hospitality and service were needed to help keep the home warm and the meals hot. They knew they were for each other as well. That spark, they felt, didn't go out after he graduated 2 years ahead of her. Sure, there were other girls he met at Goshen College, pretty faces and full of life, but those girls weren't that girl at the back of the Neff farm. She, too, was friends with those boys from New Paris, ruddy farm boys like her brothers, but they didn't interest her like that storytelling hired man. It was a cool afternoon on March 10, 1935, when these two became one. It was Sunday after church, a common practice at that time, a simple wedding with family and friends, and a good number of witnesses from the brotherhood. Any two souls were hardly more fit for each other than these two, and their union lasted 65 years when he died in May of 2000. It would be easy to discuss Orville and Lois Sherman in terms of what they did in this life. From their farming roots, they followed the Lord in their hearts around the world. With natural talents and spiritual gifts, they transformed the Mexico Old Folks Home into a brand new entity that quickly became an exemplary standard for quality housing and care for older adults as Timbercrest. More importantly, as I see it, is the need and the benefit of gleaning from their lives those lessons which helped Orville and Lois to live on in the hearts and minds of those of us who knew them. We see these lessons in service, character, work, and faith. It may have been a deferential lifestyle of brethren farmers in generations past, but both Orville and Lois learned and lived lives of service. We don't know the difficulties or pain that Orville and Lois might have had realizing that they could have no children of their own. Those feelings they kept to themselves. What they did, however, was to channel the energy other young couples used in rearing children to make their world a better place. The hard work of coming out of the Depression and entering World War II showed Orville and Lois and millions like them that the world is a much larger place than a rural corner of Elkhart County. Orville walked the tenuous line that many brethren men walked during the war. He was old enough to avoid the draft, being almost 30 years old when Pearl Harbor was attacked, and he knew his church was against the fighting. Yet he knew that his friends, farm boys who became men with him, were willing to go to fight and to die. Orville and Lois's opportunity to serve came after the war. In 1946, Orville saw a cattle boat for a newly organized program of the Brotherhood, Heifers for Relief. From 1949 to 1951, they went to Venezuela with what has become Heifer International full-time. God used their natural lifestyle, the farm, mechanics, and hospitality, to do something miraculous. They helped people learn to survive. Returning to the U.S. in 1952, Orville and Lois worked short-term jobs to pay the bills and spend time with their friends and family. The call to service came to them again in 1955 when they went to Greece for 3 years with interchurch service to Greek villages. This was a new ministry of the burgeoning World Council of Churches. Greece had been partitioned by Axis powers before World War II and suffered through a bloody civil war from 1946 to 49. By the mid-1950s, both wars had left the Greeks poor, disillusioned, and in great need. How could Lois and Orville say no? Their service in Greece was more life-changing than anyone could imagine, because it was in Greece where they met an infant orphan girl, Sophia. They adopted Sophia and loved her with all the love they had and more. Their service in Greece ended in 1958, so the Shermans, now 3 of them, returned to Indiana and to the farm. What would the next great service be? As it turns out, Orville had been working for the Farm Bureau Co-op in Goshen. It was one of those short-term jobs he had gotten used to until their next opportunity to serve came along. One day on the job in the summer of 1959, Orville fell off a ladder at work and broke both legs. Upon his recuperation, he and Lois were presented with the greatest opportunity to serve. Their church was calling them to the old folks' home in Mexico. Orville's response to the call is well known. No way.
I've heard that before.
Thank God for the persistent members of the home board who gave the job to Orville and Lois anyhow in 1959. Orville and Lois always looked at their work at Mexico and at Timbercrest as service. Many of the newsletters and promotional items of the new Timbercrest home, Orville wrote, "Timbercrest is the church in its servant role." Both of them found their ability to serve to be equally important to their ability to lead. Lois was the hired matron, and her administrative skills were put to good use getting the home's disheveled records on track. But it didn't keep her from helping those who lived at the time with their everyday needs. Orville's title was changed from superintendent to administrator, but that didn't change Orville. He could be found taking care of any number of mechanical or structural problems as much as he could be found in his office. No task was too small or too low for Orville and Lois, and this is truly the mark of service. There is a laundry list of tasks and assignments Orville and Lois kept, from congregational and district work to improving the lives of older adults in Indiana through the Indiana Association of Homes and Services for the Aging and other agencies, but their passion, their motivation was service. The Shermans were not only service-minded, they were people of character, and they were characters also. Did you know them? Oh, yes.
They were characters.
They were. Integrity was a priority for Lois. As a 4-H leader and judge in Elkhart County, Lois imparted integrity to young people. Doing things right would help them learn the ideals of the 4-H: heart, head, hands, and health. She demonstrated her character and leadership in the Christian Rural Overseas Program, which we now know as CROP. Lois's sense of integrity helped her find and keep hold of Peru Federal Savings and Loan. When other larger institutions refused to help finance the building of Timbercrest, Lois knew that the bank in Peru was the right choice. When members of the finance committee didn't call the Peru bank and kept looking for other means of support, Lois kept the door open, and she was right. Major financing for the new facility came from Peru Federal. Was this integrity or stubbornness? Either way, it shows that Lois was a woman of character, and a character. In the same way, Orville was a man of character. It was readily apparent to him that things at the Mexico home had to change. Times were changing, and living arrangements for brothers and sisters at Mexico needed a change too. They needed to improve. Orville's high standards, his character, were obvious throughout his life. His work for God and church in the 1930s, his work for his fellow man in the 1940s and 50s, were a springboard for the standards and character he brought to Timbercrest. In the design of the original structure, now A Street, B, C, and D wings, Orville envisioned wide hallways, top quality materials and embellishments, being nice without being ostentatious. These would provide the new residents of Timbercrest with the dignity they deserved. Puts me in mind of you. Orville's longtime friend, Dana Kroll, shared that Orville often took heat from home board members and church people for what seemed to be extravagances. You know, Timbercrest wouldn't be what it is today without those things, Dana shared. Those wide corridors became an industry standard. Many facilities built in the same period have narrow halls and look outdated. Timbercrest has a timeless look that was initiated by Orville's vision for the place. Orville was as much a character as he had character. He had an ornery streak that often eased tension, brought laughter, and helped bring joy to the people around him. Dana Kroll shared this story of Orville's ornery sense of humor and how he sometimes fell prey to his own gaffes. Dana writes, Orville and I were using a grain truck to move furnishings back and forth from Mexico to Timbercrest, back and forth along that narrow State Road 16. One time we stopped at the Mexico Cafe for lunch. Orville was wound up telling a joke. Seems the two guys were in a diner and ordered 2 cups of coffee. When the waitress brought the cups to the table, she had her thumbs in the coffee. Indignant, the men sent their coffee back, and ordered new cups. Again, when the waitress brought the cups to the table, her thumbs were in the cups. Again, the 2 men sent their coffee back. The third time, the waitress came back with her thumbs in the cups, and the men asked her, "Why do you keep putting your thumbs in our cups of coffee?" The waitress replied, "You see, I have these abscesses in my thumbs, and my doctor told me to keep them warm as much as possible."
Ooh.
Yeah. As soon as Orville finished the joke, their waitress appeared at the table with 2 cups of coffee, her thumbs in both of them. Orville and I laughed so hard that he nearly went under the table. Service and character joined with work in describing the Shermans. There can be no denying that work was part of their being. Orville and Lois didn't work because they were obsessed with work. They worked because, in Orville's words, Timbercrest is the church in its servant role. And that's where this ends. It doesn't go into anything further, but I really like their character. And of course, sadly, I only knew Orville in his last days, but Lois, she never lost it. When it said there about her stubbornness, I thought, yes, she was definitely stubborn, and a character, but a really good soul. And so, as I said, I just thought, well, that was something I found going through things. I thought I'd share it. So
That's excellent. Thanks, Brian,
oh,
for
sure.
sharing that.
Hey, not a problem. And I hope everybody has a nice afternoon. Get outside and take a walk, even if it's just through the courtyard.
That's right.
The beautiful day today, and we'll see you next time.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Stan.